Anakin stands on the murky, misty grounds of Dathomir, ready to begin the incantation. He looks at his Padawan beside him, who seems hesitant. "What's wrong, Snips?" Anakin asks. Ahsoka sighs. "I don't know about this, Anakin. Are you sure that we should be working with the witches of Dathomir?" She replies. Anakin places his hand on her shoulder reassuringly. "Ahsoka, while we may have different perspectives on the Force, I know that they'll be valuable allies in the future. The Jedi Union continues to grow daily, and the Republic battles with new military fervor. The Confederacy is also upping the caliber of its attacks. Dooku is merciless. We need help. These sisters will be strong, and they'll be loyal to our cause," he replies. "Look at their loyalty to each other. If we help them with this, we will have an ally for life," he continues. Ahsoka then looks back at him with new resolve, nodding. "All right, Master. I trust you. If it's good for our new alliance, and if it will help us in the fight against the Jedi, well, so be it." Anakin looks back towards the Night Sisters, who are still beginning the incantation. He raises his hand, closes his eyes, and begins reciting the words, feeling the magics of the Night Sisters flow through his veins. Soon, Mother Talzin would be resurrected, and Anakin would have a new ally in the fight for the galaxy. In the last chapter of What If the Jedi Had Their Own Government, Anakin left the Order to start his own alliance of systems in the Outer Rim. After Obi-Wan saw what the Jedi, led by Mace Windu, were doing to those under their control after they also started their new government, he left, taking the disgraced Master Yoda with him. War continues to rage between the Republic and the Separatists. Now, however, new factions stand to challenge the two galactic powers. How will this story proceed? That's what we'll be exploring in today's Banta Stew What If, the much anticipated What If the Jedi Had Their Own Government, Chapter 2, The Resurrection. As Anakin's support grows throughout the galaxy, his influence continues to grow off of Tatooine. Many people from across the Outer Rim see that Skywalker's ways are better than both the Confederacy and the Galactic Republic, and they believe that he will be an effective leader who will restore true freedom once this war is over. They also know that he was a hero of the Republic, somebody who had defected from his order specifically to do what he believed was right, and to many, that seemed to be something that was an admirable quality. There are many other leaders throughout the Outer Rim who believe Anakin Skywalker is the hero that they need in this war to truly liberate their people from the oppressive clutches of the corporations and governments that had strung them down for years. Under Skywalker's leadership, they would be free. So, Anakin's Outer Rim alliance continues to expand, and their military capacity grows. While Boba Fett is young at this time, he is still an effective enforcer, and he works with many of the bounty hunters on Tatooine to maintain order throughout the ranks. Skywalker teaches him many new hand-to-hand tactics, and he also trains with Boba Fett as well to learn about the Mandalorian suit and many of their different ways that Boba had learned from Jango when he had been growing up. The two respect each other, and Boba, rather than grow resentful for the Jedi, starts to gain a new respect and appreciation for Anakin Skywalker. He also despises Mace Windu still, which is part of why he remains on Anakin's team, because he believes that together they will be able to take down Mace and restore what it truly meant to be a Force user in the light side. Anakin was vying for trying to restore what it meant to be a Jedi at heart, not simply the dogmatic ways that he had seen throughout his tenure within the Order. While Anakin doesn't agree with Boba Fett's quest for revenge, he does see it as a tool that he can use, and he hopes to mold Boba's desire to avenge his father into a far more noble motivation for why he wants to work with Anakin and be one of the enforcers of the Outer Rim Alliance. Meanwhile, Ahsoka, the right-hand woman to Anakin, ends up doing a lot of good in the places that are infested by criminals. She leads many task forces and military operations to specifically target these criminals who continue to operate in Anakin's space, particularly the Zygerian and Hutt slave trades. The Hutts absolutely despise Anakin for taking out Jabba. However, they know that it's probably better not to mess with him, as he was continuing to gain prominence within the galaxy. They agree not to operate within his space if Anakin does not infringe upon their operations. But as Anakin's base continues to expand, the Hutts grow nervous that Anakin would continue to cut into their profit margins and their bottom lines. So, when they go forward to Maul's Shadow Collective to tell him what is going on with Skywalker, he simply pauses, mulling over his options. He had waited a long time to execute his plan of revenge against Kenobi, and he still hadn't capitalized on the opportunity to seize Mandalore and to seize the Duchess. But that is because he saw what was going on in the galaxy, and in his mind he calculated that the Jedi would be their own downfall. Satine was still Duchess of Mandalore, but Maul was still in the shadows, plotting. Soon, he would have his opportunity to gain revenge against Kenobi. It simply was not yet. However, hearing what Skywalker was doing prompts Maul to want to further consider his options. He tells the Hutts to remain low-key and do their thing in the shadows, not to attract attention to themselves. He says the same to the other crime syndicates, because soon their opportunity to strike would come. It simply was not at this moment. There were too many warring factions in the galaxy, too many things to consider, and Maul required more time to mull these over with his apprentice, Savage. "I know the drill about patience, Maul, but I want my revenge now," Pre Vizsla says to him in private one time. "I grow tired of simply waiting while Satine sucks the life from this Mandalorian society that I have helped build." Maul looks at Pre Vizsla. "Patience, my friend. Soon you and your Death Watch will control this world, but not yet. The galaxy is too far into a state of confusion right now. We must wait for things to settle down, and we must wait for a perfect opportunity to strike," Maul replies. "I've seen what is happening. I know what goes on in the shadows, and I know that now would not be the correct opportunity to handle the situation. Soon they will all be here. I can see it now. I've visioned it. I see all leaders from across the galaxy here, and that would be the perfect time to strike, take out the source of all the evil in the galaxy, and really throw everyone into chaos," Maul says, his eyes bright with anticipation. Pre Vizsla groans. "I'm not sure I really believe all your Force stuff, Maul. But I'll trust you, for now. You haven't given me any reason not to." Maul looks back at Pre Vizsla. "Excellent. We shall keep scheming in the shadows then, and we will take our time to strike when it is right." Meanwhile, in the Republic Senate, discontent continues to brew with Palpatine's handling of the entire crisis. The Republic had now fractured, and they were fighting against their military generals. Hollows are played of Mace Windu leading hordes of Jedi into battle against the poor clone soldiers who had once fought side by side with them. They were now being slaughtered, their weapons nothing against the Jedi's mastery of the Force and their use of their lightsabers. Mace Windu twirls his saber with extreme accuracy and cuts down many of the clones in their efforts to secure checkpoints for the Republic. When the footage is done, the Senate is silent, and Palpatine uses this as an opportunity to try and woo people to his side. "The Jedi are evil," Palpatine says. "They've left our Republic and turned it into a corrupt mess. Our military is doing the best it can to fight against their mastery of the Force, but unfortunately, I don't see it going anywhere," he says. "We must continue to vamp up our war efforts. Our secret intelligence reports that the Jedi are continuing to recruit more and more to their ranks every single day," Palpatine says. "Our commandos have also taken out many key Jedi targets, and this war is not unwinnable," Palpatine says. Padme looks at Palpatine and sees a man who had become so embroiled in power and the entire emergency authority that he had been granted, that he was no longer that simple senator from Naboo. Now he was a power-hungry man who was seeking to further it by any means necessary. It would be so easy just to end the war and to allow all of these separate factions to peacefully settle down and do their own thing. However, Palpatine wanted to continue to militarize and to continue to stoke the flames against those who continued to oppose him. She shakes her head and thinks about Anakin and how she had disagreed with his choice initially to leave the Republic, but now she could see why. She had been a Republic apologist for so many years, but now it was clearly fracturing, and it was militarizing. The dream of the Republic was no more. Anakin, however, was uniting many Outer Rim systems in an alliance, a democratic alliance that would spell true freedom for the people of the galaxy. So, upon the end of Chancellor Palpatine's speech, she stands up and gives one of her own. "People of the galaxy, I beg you, I plead with you to listen to me today," she says. "I have grown tired of this war. I want to see it end, but it seems like nobody else agrees with me. The Chancellor continues to warmonger. He continues to further an agenda that simply promotes the destruction of innocent civilians and the deaths of millions," she says. She pauses, and the Senate's eyes are on her, including Palpatine's. "Today, I can no longer stand with this Republic," she says. This draws an audible gasp from those in attendance on the Senate floor. "Today, I am withdrawing myself and resigning as senator so that I can go and fight for something I believe in," she says. This draws boos from many people in the audience. "No, listen to me. The Outer Rim Alliance truly promotes democracy, truly furthers the vision that I once believed the Republic to," she says. "I am going to join Anakin Skywalker, my husband," she proclaims loudly. The rest of the Senate is absolutely silent at this proclamation. Jaws drop to the floor. "I don't want to hide it anymore. He's not a Jedi. I'm not in the Republic. That is my husband, and I am proud of what he's doing. I am going to join him because I believe that he is the key to unlocking what this galaxy needs again. Freedom, peace, prosperity for the Outer Rim, and granting those who want what they need, the things that will help them prosper," she says. "It took me a while to get here. I thought I'd lost all hope in the Republic. I have. I tried and tried and tried to push forward, but I simply cannot anymore." She stands up and walks away, getting out of her Senate pod and leaving the Senate chambers. She gets on her starship with Jar Jar Binks and a couple of her other handmaidens and proclaims that she is going to Tatooine to be with her husband and to represent his government in a way that would be powerful and sovereign. Then she leaves, ready to take on the next adventure in her life. As this is happening, Anakin is fighting a war on one of the Outer Rim planets. Him and Ahsoka fight alongside each other, deflecting blaster bolts back at separatist droids and at their former clone brothers and new Republic soldiers alike. Many clones had actually come to join Anakin's fight, including Captain Rex, who believed that Anakin was the right way to go for the galaxy. He had trained and fought alongside him for so many years, and he favored Anakin's leadership over that of Palpatine and Tarkin's people, who treated the clones much like Pong Krell did during the Clone Wars, incredibly disposable and very robotic. As soon as Rex saw this transition, him and many of his brothers decided to up and leave to fight with Anakin, who was a man of the people, a commander who favored the lives of his soldiers over above everything else. So, as Anakin and Ahsoka cut down droids left and right to take another planet and liberate it from the Separatists and the Republic attacks on this world, they feel alive. Laser bolts fly past their heads, but together, the three of them fight side by side with their strange, unorthodox tactics and are able to defeat both the droids and the clones who are fighting against them. There are no Jedi in this fight, but Anakin partially wishes that there were. He would like to teach some of them a lesson, the ones who had joined Mace Windu and who had decided to pervert the teachings of the Order even further. He wanted to show them what it meant to truly harness the Force. When Anakin returns to Tatooine from his mission, he is absolutely shocked to see Padme waiting for him. He goes and hugs her, before showing him the big speech that had been broadcast across the galaxy to every single planet. There, Anakin saw Padme admitting their love for one another, and he smiles. "Oh, Padme, you didn't have to do that," he says. Padme looks back. "Yes, Anakin, but I wanted to," she says. They hug, and they sit for a moment just looking into each other's eyes, pleased to be beside each other here on Tatooine in Jabba's former palace, which had been refurbished and created into a hub of government activity for the Outer Rim Alliance. "Your voice is strong, Padme," Anakin says. "There's the possibility that perhaps, maybe down the road, somebody will actually join us because of what you said." Padme looks back at him. "That wasn't my intent, but I certainly hope so. You seem to embody many more of the values of the Republic than even the Republic does nowadays, and I appreciate what you're doing for the Outer Rim. You are the only one who actually wants to stand up for these people, rather than furthering your own agenda and power," she says. "Even the Jedi are starting to be unrecognizable. The ones who were once the beacons of hope for the galaxy are now turning into some theocratic mess," she says. "Anakin, I believe in you, and I want to see your government succeed. I want to see you bring back that peace and hope to the galaxy that the Republic once brought so many people. And I want to see this war end," she says. Anakin nods. "I know, Padme, and that's exactly what I'm going to try and do." As the war continues to rage across the galaxy, after Anakin liberates this world from the clutches of the Separatists and the Republic alike, many begin to question whether or not this war is actually between the Republic and the Separatists, or whether it is between them and Anakin now. Mace Windu sees Anakin Skywalker, and he becomes enraged. He knows that Anakin had left the Order and abandoned the principles that he had stood so firmly for. He knows that now, as Grand Master of the Order, along with Commander of the High Council and the leader of so many new planets, that he has to set an example. And Skywalker was taking so many people away from the Order that could have been fighting for him. Skywalker was also taking planets away from them that they could have conquered, and that they could have made into their perfect Jedi utopia. So, in a bold move, Mace Windu contacts both Chancellor Palpatine and Count Dooku, and proposes that they have a meeting together, where they sit down and discuss the current state of the galaxy. None of these leaders are incredibly happy with this idea. However, after some consultation, and after Mace Windu telling them that it would be worth it, they agree to meet. In the shadows of Coruscant, all of these leaders come together in the dingy industrial district, where we see Count Dooku and Palpatine meeting on multiple occasions during the canon timeline. Here, Mace Windu says that this is going to be where he puts his foot down. "Anakin Skywalker is going around the galaxy and stealing planets from us," he says. "Not only that, but he's taking away from many of our military operations. He's stolen many clones, and he is charismatic enough to be able to woo the galaxy to his side. We can't let this go on any further," Mace Windu says abruptly. Palpatine looks back at him, stroking his chin. "I am somewhat in agreement with you, Master Windu," he says. "However, I cannot trust you after you abandoned the Republic to start your own government," Palpatine says. "This would be an illogical step. I came here because I was willing to hear you out, but I'm not sure I'm ready to join you in some crusade against Skywalker." Dooku looks at Windu, and knows that they had already been allied for a long time, as he had secretly been funneling funds towards the Jedi building their navy in order to be a greater threat to the Republic. Dooku and Windu look at each other, the former friends now turned enemies on opposite sides of the war, but secretly cooperating. Dooku strokes his beard, wondering what to say. "Master Windu, I believe you are wise," he begins. "However, I am also unsure of going against Skywalker. He simply wants his own thing in the Outer Rim. He's not threatening any of my intents to separate from the Republic. In fact, I would argue that he is doing the same thing that both of us are doing with our factions." Dooku continues. "He is simply seeking freedom, as I am." Windu looks back at him. Do you really think that Skywalker wants freedom? He says. No, he just wants to do his own thing. He was always an uppity contrarian Jedi, and it's only a matter of time before he moves against you two as well. Windu looks back at both of them, his eyes fraught with the intent of bringing down Skywalker. If you won't join me, well, then you will see the consequences of your actions later, Windu says. Palpatine and Dooku both shake their heads. I'm afraid that I cannot join you, Windu, Dooku says. Palpatine looks at him as well. And I certainly will not either. I am fighting a war against the Separatists. While Skywalker is a traitor, he is not my main concern right now. I will deal with him and his band of insolent rebels later down the line. In fact, I trust Skywalker far more than I trust either of you, Palpatine says, staring at Dooku and Windu. Both of you are traitors. Windu, you betrayed your own government. At least Skywalker had the decency to leave the Order first. You took soldiers back to some planet from your history and decided to start a theocracy. Absolutely absurd if you ask me, even getting rid of Grandmaster Yoda when he disagreed with you. I think you're the power-hungry one here, Palpatine says. Windu looks back at him with a sharp gaze. I'm not power-hungry, he says. I only want what's best for the Jedi and for the galaxy at large. Palpatine shakes his head. I'm afraid I cannot agree with you, Windu. He then goes away and leaves. I'll see you on the battlefield, former Jedi, he says to Dooku. Then he looks back at Mace. And I will see you in prison. He gets back on his shuttle and flies back to the Senate chambers, intent on continuing the war on 3 different fronts. On the other side of the galaxy, Anakin begins to wonder about something. He thinks that mixing the abilities of the Night Sisters and his faction of new Force users would be incredibly helpful when trying to master the Force and aid in their conflict, trying to liberate the Outer Rim. Anakin begins to wonder if perhaps he should reach out to the gang of Night Sisters that remained on Dathomir and attempt to try and woo them to his side. So, one day, he brings Ahsoka, Yoda, and a hologram of Obi-Wan, who has gone to Mandalore now, into his office. While he does have other Jedi who have joined the Order, such as Quinlan Vos, these are the ones that he trusts the most. They'd given him good advice through thick and thin, and had always been there for him, and now they had decided to be loyal to him as he continued to try and liberate the Outer Rim and start a new philosophy with regards to the Force. I've called you all here today because I have a... Anakin pauses. Looming question for all of you. He continues. Yoda looks back at him. What question is this that you have, young Skywalker? He asks. Anakin sighs. I believe I know what your answer will be, and I'm not sure I agree, but I wanted to see what your wisdom on this matter would be anyway. I'm thinking about bringing the Night Sisters into the fold for our continued liberation of the Outer Rim, he says. Yoda looks at him inquisitively. Ahsoka goes aghast, wondering what Anakin was thinking. But then she remembers Ventress and how they had helped one another on Coruscant. Perhaps the Night Sisters wouldn't be so bad, Master, Ahsoka says. I believe that they could really help us and give us new insights into the Force that we didn't have before. Maybe even help our governance to improve, she says. Obi-Wan looks at Anakin and gives him a little bit of a side-eye. Anakin, I think you're forgetting one thing, he says. Sadly, the Night Sisters were all massacred by Grievous during his genocide on the planet because of Dooku and Palpatine's fear of Talzin, he says. Anakin looks back at him. Yes, Master, but I firmly believe that there are others out there. They simply just aren't in the light of day. How is it possible that all of them could have died at Grievous's hand? Anakin asks. Obi-Wan pauses, thinking about this. Perhaps you're right, but it will be difficult to find them, Obi-Wan replies. Anakin nods. I know, Master, but I'm willing to go for it. These people, these Night Sisters, could be valuable assets to our cause, he says. Obi-Wan strokes his beard. Well, I don't necessarily agree with you on this, Anakin. I believe that your methodology and your way of thinking about the Force is far more correct than the Jedi, and that the Night Sisters, in their loyalty to one another, would be excellent allies, provided that we are also loyal to them. Yoda, the most experienced Jedi, looks and makes a small sound.
Skywalker, disagree with you about the Night Sisters, I do. Know that they use the dark side, I also do. However,
Yoda pauses for a moment.
Believe that the Night Sisters are entirely evil, like the Sith, I do not, he says. The next generation of Force users, you are, he says, directed to Anakin and Ahsoka. Do what you must, you should.
He resolves. Anakin looks back at the Masters. Thank you all. I will go on my quest then. He leaves with Ahsoka and turns off the hologram of Obi-Wan. Yoda looks at him.
Careful you must be, Skywalker, he says. Let their ways consume you. You must not.
Anakin looks back at Yoda. Thank you for your insight, Master. I will keep that in mind. Anakin and Ahsoka decide to depart for Dathomir, leaving the young Boba Fett in charge, along with Rex and a couple of other Jedi who have been seeded into the new government, like Quinlan Vos. Anakin would have normally left Obi-Wan in charge, but he was on Mandalore, dealing with his own situation. So, Anakin and Ahsoka leave, flying off to Dathomir, ready to take on the Night Sisters, and also ready to see if they would be receptive to their cause. After long meditation, when Anakin and Ahsoka land on Dathomir, they can immediately sense the presence of a few sisters who still remain in the shadows. As they walk through the fogs and see the strange plants that grow around them, they bear their lightsabers, ready for anything. In an instant, one of the sisters fires her arrows straight towards Anakin, who deflects it, looking around to see where the shot comes from. I bear you no harm, Night Sisters, he says. I come with good intentions, and I know that you may be skeptical of me. I'm no longer a Jedi, and I'm not a Sith either, Anakin says. I want to be partners with you. In that moment, nobody moves a muscle. Anakin and Ahsoka remain vigilant, waiting for the sisters. However, eventually, one of them pops out of the shadows, and it's a familiar face, the one of the notorious Morgan Elsbeth. Who are you? She asks. And what do you want on my planet? Anakin raises his arms and tells Snips to deactivate her sabers. She does so, and Anakin does as well, hooking it onto his belt. I bear you no ill will, Anakin says. Well, then what do you want? Morgan replies. I want to help you, and I want you to help me, Anakin says. I want you to come and join my cause. We're fighting against the Separatists, and the Jedi, and the Republic, trying to make a more free galaxy. Morgan scoffs. Why would we join you? She says. Why should I trust you? Anakin looks her dead in the eyes. I know your people have been through a lot, but I believe that we can help each other further our knowledge of the Force, Anakin says. I don't believe in the Jedi anymore, and I certainly don't believe in the Sith, and I know that you don't either, after that massacre by Dooku and Grievous. She looks at him. Anakin feels her intense stare as she begins to contemplate his words. Sisters, what do we think? Morgan says. In that moment, 2 or 3 other Night Sisters hop from the shadows, and they look at Anakin and Ahsoka with the same eyes that Morgan does. Anakin waits, wondering what they'll say. Then, Morgan actually smiles. Perhaps there is something you can do for us, Jedi. She looks back. We need some assistance in a ritual that we've been performing, and I believe that if you help us, it would also help your cause, and we could be mutual allies, Morgan says. What is this ritual? Anakin replies cautiously. Morgan smiles. We are trying to resurrect our great mother, she says. We want Talzin back, the unifier of the clans. She looks towards Ahsoka as well. I believe that if we resurrect Talzin, the Night Sisters will come back stronger than ever, and our clan will continue to grow once more. She looks back to Anakin. Do this. Help us resurrect Talzin, and we will help you. Anakin frowns. He looks at Ahsoka. Then he looks back at the witches. All right, I'll help you, he says. Morgan smiles. Good, she says. Let me show you the way back to our cave. Together, Anakin and the few sisters walk through the murky depths of Dathomir and eventually reach their old cave, which was filled with strange memorabilia and places that had been used for sacrifices and rituals in the past. Anakin feels an uneasy sense, but he knows that this is the right path. Mother Talzin had never been unreasonable to his understanding. Helping the Night Sisters seemed like this could go a long way. So Skywalker goes down, and him and his apprentice begin learning how to do the incantations. You ready, Jedi? Morgan says. Anakin nods. Yes, I am, he replies. They begin the incantation, and Anakin uses his keen ear to pick up on what they're saying. Do you think you can join in and help us? Morgan says. Just let me know when. Anakin pauses for a moment, though, looking at his apprentice, who seems conflicted. Master, are you sure we're doing the right thing? She says. Anakin looks back. I believe so, Ahsoka. These Night Sisters, they're going to help us, and we, together, will be able to take down our opponents who don't want to see us exist anymore. Anakin looks at Ahsoka. This is the right way to go. If we help them, we'll have a new ally on our side that will help in the conflict. Ahsoka pauses, and then she nods at her master. If you trust them, then I do too, Sky Guy. Together, they reach out with their hands and listen to the incantation, and then begin injecting their own flavor of the Force into it. They listen to the Night Sisters and recite the same things that they're saying, and they use their powers to imbue the magic ritual. The Night Sisters continue to get more and more and more in depth with it, using the power of Anakin, the Chosen One, and his apprentice Ahsoka to truly make their ritual complete. Their incantation continues, and then suddenly, out of the altar that they sit beside, rises a green mist. Anakin senses a powerful presence, but he continues to feel the magic flow through his veins. He knows that this is a different type of magic than he's ever seen before, and Anakin looks forward to feeling that once again. He sees another side of the Force as he also feels the presence of Mother Talzin growing closer, closer, closer. He imbues this incantation with his own words and starts using the true power of the Chosen One. That same power that the Force had given him as a child had imbued in him when he had been born. Anakin recites this Force language into this incantation. And so, as it continues and as the chants grow louder and stronger, Anakin feels Mother Talzin's presence coming back to life. Then, when there's a small laugh from the altar, and Anakin opens his eyes, he sees the witch in the green mist. Thank you, Anakin, she says. I never thought I'd see the day when a Jedi would be helping my sisters. Anakin looks back at Talzin. Well, then he glances at Ahsoka and smirks. Well, Mother Talzin, we are no Jedi. She looks back at them. I hear from my sisters and my children that you are wanting our help, Talzin says. Anakin nods. Yes, Mother Talzin. I believe that the Night Sisters would be the perfect addition to our cause. She looks at him. And why is that, Skywalker? She continues with her ethereal voice. Because you value loyalty. You hate the Separatists. You despise the Jedi and the Republic that they stand for. I know that you like to isolate yourselves to Dathomir, but this is the chance to truly expand your influence, Anakin says. This is the chance to join forces with somebody who wants to learn your ways and who's willing to teach you theirs. Not only would this be great for you politically, Mother Talzin, and it could help put your clan on the map again, but it would also be good to further your knowledge of the Force. We could be mutually beneficial partners, and I believe that with my knowledge and yours combined, we could take down even the darkest of Sith Lords." For a moment, Mother Talzin ponders this, looking towards Morgan Elsbeth and the other sisters. Then she looks back at Anakin. "I admire your openness to learning our ways, Skywalker, and I believe that you are the perfect person to align ourselves with. While you may not know the dark side well, you are open to learning our magics, and I can see that your loyalty to your apprentice and to your people and your soldiers reigns supreme in your heart, much like the clan of Night Sisters that I have established and cared for years. They were loyal enough to me to bring me back from the dead, and I want only to reciprocate that. I want to show the galaxy that sense of sisterhood that we have as sisters, and I do not want us to be forced into the shadows any longer." Talzin looks at Anakin. "After Grievous killed so many of us, killed me, well, I can safely say that I am no fan of those Sith anymore, and your Jedi, they never wanted us to exist either. Let us join hands, Skywalker, and together we can take our place as the next generation of Force users in the galaxy." She smiles. "Oh, but there is one thing I must mention." Anakin cocks his head. "What's that, Mother Talzin?" he says. Talzin smiles. "You know of my son, Maul," she muses. Anakin stops for a second. "Yes, but I thought he was dead. We haven't heard anything about him in months." Talzin looks back at Anakin. "He is not dead, Skywalker," she says. "He is trying to continue the legacy of the sisters that Dooku destroyed. I told him to carry it on with his Shadow Collective. He may cause trouble for us, but down the road, I will ensure that he cooperates." Talzin looks at Skywalker and places a hand on his shoulder. "I believe that we are going to be good friends, Anakin," she says. Anakin looks back at Talzin. "I agree, Mother," he replies. "Good. Well then let us begin the reconstruction of my clan from the ashes," Talzin muses, "and let us work together." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Obi-Wan waits on Mandalore, whose Duke now waiting on the Duchess Satine. He thinks about Anakin, and he wonders what's going on. He looks at Satine, the love of his life, who he can now possess without fear of the Jedi interjecting themselves in his life, and he smiles. He thinks that now, with Anakin's government, even though he didn't subscribe to all of his political philosophies and his views on the Force, he was able to have freedom. "Satine, I really do think that you should consider joining Anakin's Outer Rim Alliance," he says. "The League of 2000 could bring so much prosperity there, and we could be a legitimate force that could contend with the Confederacy and the Republic war machines, along with the Jedi who are continuously moving closer to Mandalore." Satine looks back at him. "I will not align myself with any government in this conflict," she says. "I am principled, and I believe that Mandalore should remain a peaceful society. We cannot revert to our old ways. Then we are no better than Pre Vizsla and his Death Watch." Satine looks back at Obi-Wan. "I know that you want the best for the galaxy. Perhaps one day we can host peace negotiations here, and we can figure out what to do with this planet." Obi-Wan sighs. "You're right, Satine. I think that you're correct. We should host peace negotiations, and we should try to bring the galaxy together as one unified society. Get rid of all this war and frustration. But it may be impossible for now." Satine looks back at Obi-Wan. "I am remaining optimistic," she says. Obi-Wan smiles. "And that's what I love about you, Satine." He then looks back out the window at the bustling city of Mandalore, and Obi-Wan hopes that in the future, looking towards what was to come, that things would settle down and that Mandalore could be a prosperous society with which him and Satine could live together in peace and harmony for a long, long time. Hey there folks, now's the part of the video where we transition and try to look at questions that people have asked within our Discord server. Today, the question comes from Chronos Infinitarium. I think that's how I'm pronouncing it right, but Chronos asks what I did for my birthday, because it was my birthday a few days back at the point of recording this, and I didn't do anything too crazy, but thank you all for the birthday wishes. I really appreciated it, and it made me feel very appreciated within the community, and like what I'm doing actually matters and impacts people, so that made me feel really happy, and I really appreciate the birthday wishes. I didn't do a whole lot. I went and I did some work during the day, hung out, called my parents, whatever, got a lot of birthday messages. And in the evening, I went out with a few of the boys to watch the Oilers game in town because they were playing on my birthday. Sure enough, it was a win. The boys pulled one out for me and forced Game 7. Unfortunately, looking back, it could have been a better game the other day with Edmonton, and I was sad that they lost, but forcing a Game 7 after being down 3-0 and being bottom of the league for the first 3 months of the season, absolutely unheard of. So I'm happy with the season that the boys put on, and I just wish I could have been home to experience what was going on in the city. But you know what? I had a blast with my friends, and it was a good time. So yeah, we just went out, had some drinks, and watched the Oilers game. It was pretty fun. It was a good day. I also went climbing with a few of my buddies. They invited me along for the ride, and it was good. I went bouldering at one of the local places in town, and it was a fun time. I had a good time with my boys, and I felt like I had a good 21st birthday. I'm legal in the States now, which is awesome. Been legal in Canada for a while now, but that's besides the point. And yes, it was just a good day. I'm glad that I had it, and I wish I could have been at home to celebrate with my family, but you know what? I didn't mind being here either. And I love Kingston, and I love the people around me, so it was good. Thank you all for watching today's video as well. Again, the best birthday present I could have asked for would have been, the Stanley Cup final win, but Banta Stew is pretty solid too, and I am really enjoying making videos for this community. We got to 9.4k subs recently. That road to 10,000 is in sight, and I cannot wait to make it there with you guys all cheering us on and being the loyal fans who make all of this possible. I hope that each and every one of you have an absolutely bantatacular day, that you comment below what you thought of this video and what you would like to see in the future as well. Finally, as always, I'd like to wish each and every one of you that you have gotten your daily delicious dose of Banta Stew.